wouldn't it be nice to have several thought leaders in your industry know and love your brand? Start a podcast. Invite your industry's thought leaders to be guests on your show, and start reaping the benefits of having a network full of industry influencers. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to the B2B Growth Show, a podcast dedicated to helping B2B executives achieve explosive growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. I'm Jonathan Green.
And I'm James Carberry.
Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. We are here today with DJ Francis. He is the founder at Hub and Spoke Marketing. DJ, how you doing today?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to chat with you today, DJ. I was just telling you offline, I have different folks pitch me on topics for B2B growth pretty much every day. And because we use this show to really feature ideal clients as guests, I turn down most of them just because most people aren't, don't fit that persona. But your topic that you pitched was actually so compelling to me that we decided to go on ahead and do this. And essentially what we're going to be talking about today is AirBnB's B2B effort. And you were instrumental in kind of helping bring this B2B product to market, Airbnb for Work. But before we get into that, DJ, I'd love for you to tell listeners just a little bit about what you and your team are up to at Hub and Spoke.
Sure, thanks. So Hub and Spoke Marketing is an independent marketing consultancy. We use content marketing to drive leads and nurture them through the funnel. So that means I make executives' lives easier by completely managing the content lifecycle from strategy to creative to technical implementation.
I love it. So DJ, in kind of diving right in, I want to give just a little more context as to what you were brought in to help with. Can you tell us, obviously we all know kind of the B2C component of Airbnb. You can stay in people's houses and it's made travel accommodations so much easier for the average consumer. But tell us a little bit about Airbnb for Work so listeners have some context here.
Sure. So Airbnb for Work is the B2B group within Airbnb. They're responsible for business travel driving nights. So that's where they spend most of their time, trying to get people who are on business trips to stay at Airbnbs rather than more traditional accommodations. So it is also a chance to focus on some new scenarios where Airbnb plays really well. So scenarios like offsites, relocations, team trips, hotels and traditional accommodations tend to fall flat a little bit. So Airbnb for Work help support that. They've also done a lot in terms of a product to help travel managers manage not only Airbnb, but other travel suppliers. So they've got a platform that after a travel manager registers, they're able to get access to a complete company-wide platform where they have visibility into where their travelers are going. They're able to integrate with duty of care providers, all those sorts of good things to help support that travel manager. And then, like you mentioned, last week they launched AirBnBforWork.com. That's the demand gen content hub that is there to help support those travel managers, as well as a lead scoring program that kind of runs in the background.
Got it. I love it. So DJ, you were telling me offline just some stats about kind of really the why behind Airbnb starting to focus on B2B. Can you share those with us?
Yeah, certainly. So, I think business travel, a lot of people don't understand how huge that market is. GBTA is estimating that by 2020, it's going to be a $1.6 trillion market. You figure Airbnb, and these are all, publicly available stats. They have 4.5 million listings in 191 countries. So, 300 million plus people have stayed at an Airbnb over all time. And you can just see the kind of Venn diagram as to where that overlaps with the opportunity for business travel. One point that, a lot of folks don't know is that nearly 15% of all nights booked on Airbnb right now are already for work. So even though it's known as a B2C platform, there are some early adopters who have already either on their own or through the company are using that function so that they can take advantage of some of those opportunities.
I love it. So DJ, I want to get into kind of the meat of this interview. What I really want to spend a lot of time focusing on is what B2B marketers listening to this can learn from what Airbnb did right with their B2B go-to-market strategy. So can you kind of walk us through you being there, pretty much through not just ideation, but through the execution of this strategy all the way up to launch last week? Can you talk to us about what they did right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the things that they did right from the very beginning was that they understood the need for strategy and strategic positioning. So, with them, I helped run the strategy and content operations for the demand gen content hub. A lot of times you have companies who are in such a rush to get something up that they kind of put the strategy to the side, or, it comes later. The Airbnb was really smart in terms of how they kind of orchestrated this from the very beginning. That's related to a second point, which was they had leadership buy-in from the very beginning. So David Holyoke is the global head of business travel for Airbnb. He is a fantastic leader and one of the best, leaders I've worked under. And he was able to put the right people in the room to kind of get consensus on this. Demand generation, lead scoring, all these things are somewhat new to many folks. And so I think him being able to kind of be that person at the forefront, the tip of the spear, was very, very helpful and provided air cover for a lot of the work we were doing. I would say a third thing is they considered all the channels that they wanted to hit prior to launch. So right now, I think what you're seeing is probably a little bit more phased out. But we were talking about all different channels, email, paid, etc., months and months in advance. So that's something that sometimes falls to the very end. And so I think they were smart to include that. And then the fourth thing I'll mention is they partnered with a marketing automation leader to support the lead scoring. Obviously, you want to get content out into the market, but it has a limited amount that it can actually do unless there's information flowing back through that lead scoring program to sales, so that they have a better idea of who they're talking to and what that person's going to care about. So I think they did those four things very, very right. But I think the thing that impressed me most was kind of overall was that all the content that we produced provided value to the end user. A lot of times when you get into content production, it starts trending more and more to, well, what can we say about the product, or, how can we push sales? They were very, very smart in that every piece of content, and you'll see it on the site live today, provided a real piece of value to the end user. And I'll give you a few examples. You can certainly tell what's going on when you're seeing titles like New to Managing Travel, 5 tips to get you started, or 6 tips to help you start a company travel policy. So obviously these are, intended for folks who are maybe just starting out, who are thinking maybe more attracted to Airbnb anyway. So you can really see kind of just from the headlines what they're trying to do. As you delve into the site a little more, you're going to see things like how to get leadership buy-in to launch Airbnb for Work, or measuring the impact of partnering with Airbnb for Work. So starting to get a little more of the ROI as you get down that funnel, bringing the product up a little bit more, getting away from the broad trends and everything that tend to be at the top of the funnel there.
You know what, as I'm looking through this, I'm looking through the resources right now, the content library for Airbnb for Work. And, I do see, a lot of this is, most of everything I'm seeing is super helpful. 6 steps to help you start a company travel policy. And it reminds me of another brand, a large brand that I know is doing this well, American Express. They branded it Open or something like that. I can't remember specifically, but kind of leading with just genuinely valuable content. Were there any other larger brands that you guys were looking at as you were developing the content strategy for Airbnb for Work to say, man, what's working? Or was this something where you guys kind of stayed pretty insular and didn't necessarily look outside for motivation or inspiration?
There was some looking outside in terms of just best practices and, what made folks successful. I think Airbnb has a great and very unique brand. And so I think they did want to remain true to that. So they obviously weren't trying to emulate anyone. We did have discussions about folks who were doing things correctly, and how we wanted to kind of model ourselves after. One I'll mention that's kind of a favorite of mine is SecureWorks. They're a cybersecurity company. And, they do a really nice job of explaining something very complex in a simple way. In the same manner, Airbnb had to explain something complex. This isn't just home sharing now. This is a software platform where you can manage travel. That is a very different, selling point than the B2C side. So,
yeah.
I think they really had to be smart about that. So yeah, we did look at, who was doing well, but I think they kind of wanted to remain true to their unique brand.
I'm really ashamed to admit this, but we went the first 3 years of our business without having a single case study. I know, pretty ridiculous. So I finally broke down and had Kappa 99 create a couple case studies for us. We sent them some examples of other case studies that we really liked. Then we sent them the stories and the results that we wanted to include. After a few rounds of revisions, we now have 2 beautifully designed case studies that we send to pretty much every one of our prospects. When you sign up with Kappa 99, you get unlimited graphic design and unlimited revisions for just $399 a month. Head over to b2bgrowthshow.com/design and try out their 15-day free trial. That's b2bgrowthshow.com/design. Let's get back to this interview. I'm seeing in here a really nice mix, DJ, of content that, measuring the impact of partnering with Airbnb for work, next to an article that says 5 things road warriors want when they travel for work. And this is interesting to me because I see a lot of folks that are doing content, they overemphasize the 5 things road warriors want when they travel for work. And I think, honestly, I even fall into this trap where I don't publish enough content that is directly about our service or what we're bringing to market. In looking through the library here, it seems to be a pretty good mix of, talking about the product, but also just, posts that are, maybe a little bit more disconnected, not disconnected in the sense that it's obviously related, but it's not directly about the product. How did you think about, is there a certain ratio that you guys said, hey, for every 3 posts that, are still related, but not directly, correlated, we want to do 1 post that is all about, this, or what was your thought process there, DJ?
We broke it up into, we stayed really true throughout to the sales funnel. So they knew a lot about how, because Airbnb, believe it or not, has been doing this B2B side for over a year now. So they had a good idea of what that sales funnel looked like. And really what we did, and this should come as no surprise to anyone, we looked at personas in terms of who we were targeting, and then we really dug into that customer journey per persona. So, some parts of that customer journey were the same for particular consumers, and other times they were very different. And so, believe it or not, every single piece of content that is up on that site and live has a place that it fit within that funnel. And that corresponds also to the lead scoring aspect. So as you get down the funnel, that content becomes more valuable because we know that you're open to hearing about the product, and we're able to kind of gauge your interest based on that. So it has to do a lot with qualifying those leads and helping them get over the hurdles that these folks were facing and still are facing. You mentioned that this stuff is very valuable from kind of a brass tacks, nuts and bolts standpoint. And that's exactly what we were going for. There are people who are having real trouble saving their company's money because they're staying in these, expensive places downtown. And so what we wanted to get across not only was that there was another option, but here's how you enact that option. It's not enough to just say, here's the city on the hill. We're trying to give people a map to the city.
Yeah, that makes sense. One question that I always like to ask as it relates to content marketing, DJ, I think it's the $1 million question because it seems like every content marketer is trying to figure this out. In terms of distribution, obviously Airbnb has, a massive database, on the B2C side. How did you guys think about distribution in terms of getting all this great content in front of the right people? Is it, obviously it's a mix of enabling your sales team, making sure your sales team knows where it's at so they can use it along the sales process once they're already working with a prospective customer. Was there some email distribution, social, holistically, kind of what was you guys' plan of attack when it came to distributing all this?
I think I'm pretty sure we looked at almost every distribution channel and kind of weighed pros and cons. Obviously the website is going to be key. It's kind of the resource hub there. Marketing automation is clearly powerful, and we've all seen the stats that email is retaining its relevance, even as it gets older and older. So, email was a big part of it. You'll see that Airbnb now has a B2B social channel. Okay. I believe, I saw Twitter and I wouldn't be surprised about LinkedIn. So I think they were very smart about kind of looking at the landscape and determining where can we make the most impact, the most quickly, and putting their resources there. But they also kind of took that broad view of, no matter what channel people come into, we want them to have a consistent experience with this content, right? So, even if we don't focus or push too much in any particular channel, we still want it to kind of be part of the same message. And they did a really great job of bringing the sales team into that messaging as well, so that they would be prepared for the information that they were getting and then be able to respond to it.
I love it. Wonderful. DJ, this has been fantastic. Is there anything else that you think we should touch on before I let you go today?
No, I think, we hit on a lot of key points. The one that I love most is just that relevance of content. We don't need more content in the world. The internet is proof of that. We need really good content. And so, that's kind of the hard part, figuring out what your prospect needs at any given moment. And I think Airbnb for Work did that here.
I love it. DJ, again, thank you so much for your time. If somebody wants to connect with you, they want to learn more about Hub and Spoke, what's the best way for them to go about doing that?
Sure. There are two options, hubspoke.marketing, or you can reach me at dj@djfrancis.com.
Wonderful. All right, DJ, again, thank you so much for your time. This has been incredible. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Talk to you soon.
There are lots of ways to build a community, and we've chosen to build the B2B growth community through this podcast. But because of the way podcasts work, it's really hard to engage with our listeners. And without engagement, it's tough to build a great community. So here's what we've decided to do. We're organizing small dinners across the country with our listeners and guests. No sales pitches, no agenda, just great conversations with like-minded people. We'll talk business, we'll talk family, we'll talk goals and dreams. We'll build friendships. So if you'd like to be a part of a B2B growth dinner in a city near you, go to b2bgrowthdinners.com. That's b2bgrowthdinners.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.